Hello and welcome to the We Are Careers show, and hope you're having a wonderful week wherever you are in the career sphere. Sabiha, how's your week going so far?
Oh, it's been such a bonkers bumper pack week. And in a way, I'm not complaining because that's exactly how I like it. How about you folks? How is your week going? Are you having a creative? Are you already sort of Wednesday? Oh, Wednesday hump day. Let us know if you're watching this on YouTube. Share your comments. And if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, or maybe you've stumbled upon this We Are Career show and you don't know what it is, make sure that you stay tuned till the end. And if you found value from today's show, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps us because it allows us to bring even more powerful guests. And oh boy, have we got a good guest for you today. In addition to that, it also helps us navigate and bring even more worthwhile content for you. Now, a reminder of what this show is all about. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hit that subscribe button so that you don't ever miss an episode. We Are Career Show is your fortnightly go-to for career professionals working in the UK market and beyond who want to improve as well as enhance their continuous professional development by finding out what the latest issues are that are impacting the career development sector. Each show, we bring you the latest updates in the sectors to keep you well informed. Plus, we bring for you an inspirational guest based on topics that matter to you. Now, the aim is simple, it's to connect and build a strong community of career professionals so that we all can serve our clients in the best possible way. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I am known as Meet Sabiha, and normally you'll hear me say at this point saying how I work with international job hunters. However, there's been a little bit of a rejig. I am now Talent Acquisition Director, which means that I am helping UK companies streamline their recruitment process. And as always, I am joined by my amazing and fabulous co-host, Chris. For those folks who don't know you, who are you, and what have we got coming up in today's episode?
Yes, thanks, Sabiha. So, hopefully most of our listeners know me by now, but who knows? So if you're a new listener, hello, a very warm welcome. I'm Chris Webb. I'm a career consultant working in higher education and involved in a variety of kind of projects for both the CDI and AGCAS within the HE sector. So very, very good morning or good afternoon, wherever and whatever time you're listening to this podcast. And topic-wise, in terms of where we find ourselves in the universe, in terms of kind of the timeline, we are right in the middle of Discover Creative Careers Week. So you may already be familiar with this kind of week that takes place once a year, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in today's episode. But the idea behind Discover Creative Careers Week is all about sort of encouraging 11 to 18-year-olds to increase their awareness of the wide range of careers within the creative industries. So great topic. We've talked a little bit about this type of thing before when we had Eric on the podcast, but this is very much going to focus today on Discover Creative Careers Week and the importance of this and what really this kind of celebration of the creative industries is all about. And we're delighted to help us kind of dig through this topic in a little bit more detail. We have the careers lead from Into Film, Cerys Evans. So Cerys, a very warm welcome to the show. And I guess for anyone that's watching or listening who's not kind of come across your work before or the work of Into Film, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, good morning. Hello. Thank you both. Really excited to be here today, and really excited to be celebrating Creative Careers Week and all that it represents. So I'm Cerys. I'm a registered career development professional, but I've moved over to the other side. So my experience, I've worked for around 20 years as a careers advisor, also as a careers leader, and as a careers writer for about 10 years of that time. So working on a whole range of kind of resources, books, websites, career platforms, and so on. And all of those skills are really essential in the role that I find myself in now, which is careers lead at Into Film. So if you don't know Into Film is the UK's leading charity for film in education and the community. We have a range of strands to our work, but the bit that I'm here to talk about today is screen careers. So it's we're funded to demystify the screen industries amongst 11 to 18-year-olds, and with a particular focus on hidden roles and even more of a focus on underrepresented groups who wouldn't necessarily see themselves represented in the screen industries as they stand so far. Yeah, so that's me, and a really exciting time, I think, to be within the creative industries. We work really closely with industry partners for all our activities, and there's a real appetite amongst industry to improve representation and change the industry, and there's stuff happening at all levels to make that happen. So really pleased to be in this space and talking about what's going on.
Thank you so much for sharing that insight. So you heard it, folks. Today we're going to be focusing on the creative sector, and we're going to be diving into some questions and exploring them. Folks, it's that point in the show where, if you've watched the show before, we are going to do the Careers Cheers. And the Careers Cheers is all about celebrating innovative and inspiring members of the careers community and beyond, or simply giving a shout out to something positive that is happening in the careers world or beyond since the last show. Now, normally we start with our guests. However, I'm going to dive in first, and then I'm going to bring Chris in. So my Careers Cheers is actually a book today, and it is somebody from the creative sector, funnily enough. And I'm going to put it up on screen. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. It's by Nihal, and the book is called Let's Talk: How to Have Better Conversations. Now, if anybody is familiar with the name Nihal Antahaneki, he was a Radio 1 DJ, and he's recently published this book. And what I love about this book, and I have to admit, I haven't read the full book just yet, but what attracted me to it was there is multiple parts, 5 parts to the book, and part 4 and part 5 is what caught my attention, because it's conversations in the workplace, which is part 4, and part 5 was the professional conversationalist. And I do believe in the line of work that we do, having powerful and impactful conversations is essential to being effective career practitioners. So if you want to know more about it, hit me up on my DM. I'll tell you what I conclude from this book, but this is my Careers Cheers. Now, Chris, I'm coming to you next. Who or what is your Careers Cheers for today?
Yes, thanks, Sabiha. So again, for all these Careers Cheers, what we will do is put the links to kind of these resources or any of the kind of books, or I guess just anything we mention, will go into that YouTube description and the episode notes on Spotify. So do keep an eye out for those. And mine is very much kind of a research report. So this actually kind of came out a couple of weeks ago. It's sort of been kind of hiding somewhere in my list of things to read, and saw it pop up. And I think a lot of careers professionals will find it quite heartening. So it's research that was carried out by the Social Market Foundation on behalf of Speakers for Schools. And it was all about basically encouraging the government to put more funding into careers professionals and careers advisors within schools. So it's one of those things where a lot of what's written in the report will be, fairly old hat to most careers advisors. Yes, we need more funding. Yes, we know that people who are more advantaged already tend to have better access to careers professionals than those who don't. So a lot of it will kind of leave you thinking, okay, we kind of know a lot of this stuff already. But what's nice is to hear that message, I think, reinforced by a prominent organisation. We know Speakers for Schools have got the ear of quite a few kind of major stakeholders in government. And so hopefully, again, this just kind of helps move the needle a little bit in terms of increasing that funding and helping Labour with that manifesto aspiration to actually kind of get these 1,000 new careers advisors in schools that we were at one point promised. So we will kind of wait and see with bated breath what comes from that. But that was my Careers Cheers for the week. And I'll pass on just very quickly to Cerys, because Sabiha, I wanted to do this at the beginning, but I didn't do it, which was mentioned that actually Cerys and I are both members of the Career Writers Association. So I wanted to kind of do a CWA handover to Cerys that I couldn't do earlier.
Seamlessly done there, Chris. So it's a really interesting network that's doing some really exciting work, I think, the CWA. So I'm very, very proud to be a part of that, even though I don't do so much writing these days. So my Careers Cheers sticks with the theme, the kind of creative careers theme. So my celebration, I suppose, is about the renewed interest and support for the creative curriculum across the UK, creative skills, creative careers, and the creative industries as a whole. So I think what we've been seeing recently is additional commitment from the UK government to fund creative initiatives. But then there's some interesting stuff going on right across the UK. We've got the MBAC in Greater Manchester, which is helping to give creative subjects greater prominence. In Scotland, we've got plans for film and screen education to become part of the curriculum in Scottish schools. And then in Wales and Northern Ireland, they are striding ahead in terms of kind of creative and screen industries. So BAFTA Cymru's been reflecting on a golden age for Wales-based production in film and TV, and Northern Ireland and Northern Ireland Screen are working towards achieving the strongest screen industry outside of London, with opportunities across film, TV and gaming. So feels like a really, these aren't new necessarily, not all of these things are new, but it just feels like creative industries have been economically valuable to the UK for a long time, but now I think we're seeing a shift in them becoming more kind of widely supported and valued, and I think that means better opportunities for young people, which, you know, exciting times to be in, I think.
I love that. What a great careers cheers, and for people to explore further about this particular sector, which leads me on to let's dive in and let's start unpicking today's topic and today's theme, which is very much in line with what Cerys has been sharing with us. So, Chris, we have a theme and a topic that we want to explore. Are we ready to dive into it now?
I think we probably are, yeah. So, as we've kind of mentioned at the top of the podcast, as you're listening to this, you are going to be slap bang in the middle of Discover Creative Careers Week, which runs from the 18th to the 22nd of November. And I suppose, Cerys, a really good starting point is if we've maybe got viewers and listeners who haven't really kind of heard about Discover Creative Careers Week, or maybe careers professionals who've heard of it but have never really kind of been involved in it, or sort of run initiatives connected to it. What can you kind of tell them about Discover Creative Careers Week? What is it? Why does it matter? And I guess how are Interfilm supporting Discover Creative Careers Week this year?
Yeah, I mean, it really is a fantastic initiative. I should add, and this might be a reason you might not have heard about it if you're outside of England. It's funded for England only, but certainly there is a growing interest from the rest of the UK nations too. So essentially, it's an industry-led, industry sort of driven programme working to ensure that there's a larger and more diverse intake of talent via a broader range of routes into the creative industries. And I think what that means for careers professionals is more opportunities for young people to explore and investigate careers in the creative sector, which is good news. It celebrates and showcases creative industry encounters for thousands of young people, but and that's kind of what's happening a lot of this week. Those kind of showcase events, those chances to kind of get out there and see creative work in action. But actually, there are there's CPD, there's resources, there's things going on all year round. So great to celebrate it this week, but also we can't forget about it for the other 51 weeks of the year. I think the reason why it's so important, certainly from my time as a careers leader, I knew how difficult it was to get creative professionals in front of young people. I know how much appetite there was from young people to speak to those creative professionals, but because of the structural differences in the industry, I think that's where the challenge lies. And I think that freelancers, micro businesses, SMEs, they can't do this alone. So that's why we needed something to kind of support. And I think the risk is that if young people don't see representation from the screen industries in their careers fairs and events and things like that, they might believe that there's a lack of opportunity, but that's not the case. So seeing opportunities, seeing them in their local areas is a really important part of young people exploring careers in these industries.
And on that sort of subject of opportunities, I get Cerys. So, you're obviously involved in Interfilm as kind of careers lead. What are sort of Interfilm kind of doing, I guess, specifically to support Discover Creative Careers Week this year? And can you give us a flavour of some of those types of opportunities, I guess, that young people, careers professionals, educators are going to be seeing across England?
Yeah, I mean, we're proud to be, we're on the Discover Creative Careers Steering Committee, along with a host of other kind of partner organisations. So that's kind of a really important place for us to be. But in terms of what's going on, so I think, to find out what's going on, the Discover Creative Careers website and the Interfilm sort of information will keep you updated. But stuff, the kind of things that we've been working on would be a few partner activities with Speakers for Schools. So we've been involved in virtual work experience, allowing young people to hear from hidden roles in the film industry. We're involved in activities for young people with SEND, another kind of virtual activity there. And we're also doing a virtual broadcast this week with trainees who worked on the brand new Wicked film, which is out this week. Lots of big industry partners involved in putting these things together, but essentially it's a chance for young people to hear the voices of people who've worked on these films, who've been involved in a whole host of productions. We've also got our Interfilm Festival, which involves free cinema screenings for hundreds of thousands of young people right across the UK, supported by Cinema First, and a lot of those will have careers kind of special events tagged onto them, so panels, Q&As, hearing from the people who worked on the film that you've just watched, all of that to kind of bring those careers to life. We're out at events, Leeds Creative Skills Festival, Manchester Create Your Future. We're collaborating with Young BAFTA Showcase on an event with some really special industry guests and craft masterclasses. And then there's all the stuff that goes on all year round. So webinars, short courses for careers professionals, events across the UK. In Northern Ireland, we work with Northern Ireland Screen for a work experience program that goes on every week. So lots and lots and lots happening. It's hard to distill it into just a couple of activities.
And Cerys, I'm just going to jump in here now. I love what you're describing. And by the way, folks, there's a lot of information that Cerys has shared there. So I would highly, highly recommend that if you haven't already started following her on socials, make sure that you do. Contact information will be dropped in the show details below on whatever platform that you are watching. And head on over to the website as well to find more details about if something piqued your interest and you're like, oh, that Manchester thing, oh, that Leeds thing, right? Head on over to the website, head on over to her socials. That's where you'll find that information. Now, we have like multiple viewers, and obviously that will also be international folks who are watching this as well. I'll come to that point in a second, later, because there might be people who are watching from Australia, from the Middle East, from India and Canada and other places that I know, who might be thinking, this sounds really good. We don't have something like this. So, if there isn't, honestly, it is worthwhile you creating something like this. And I'm sure Cerys and her team would be more than happy to talk you through what they have done in England specifically and the UK, of how they've developed this. If somebody's watching and listening and thinking, oh, we don't have this in our country, or we don't have this in our geography, how can we go about that? But what I want to ask you, Cerys, is that you previously worked as a careers advisor / careers leader, and now you're on the other side of the fence, sharing your career development expertise with the charity Interfilm, who are working to improve young people's awareness. And I completely resonated with that point of what you don't see, you can't be. Did anybody else, viewers, resonate with that point? Perhaps maybe when you were a younger you had an aspiration to be on film, to be on television, but because you didn't come from an environment that exposed you to those opportunities, that dream never became a reality. And so that awareness building and access, and that's another thing, Cerys, that you talk about, access to careers in film industry, is so important and vital as well. Is what has this experience been like, and why do you think the career development lens is so valuable for organizations like IF?
Lots to unpick from that one there, but yeah, 100%. All those points about sort of access, representation, see it to be it, and we weave that very closely through all of the work that we do. We're thinking all the time about representation. We're thinking all of the time about the diversity of what we're putting out there, the diversity of the voices, and how that kind of might land with young people right across the UK from all sorts of different backgrounds. So we're thinking about diversity in its widest sense. So yeah, as you say, I'd come to that. I'd worked as a careers advisor for a long time, and that job was an absolute joy and a privilege. So making a difference, broadening horizons, challenging misconceptions, and seeing immediately sort of the impact that you were having I loved it. I loved it. So I'm now in a very kind of different role, but still with that kind of that principle underpinning the work that I'm doing. So I'm still trying to I'm working to try and achieve the same things for young people, but just trying to deliver it in a slightly different way, I guess. I think that my experience as a careers advisor means that hopefully it keeps me focused on what young people are asking, what young people need to know to support their decision making, how we can take that information to them in a way that feels accessible, going back to those kind of points about representation and visibility, but also things like being able to explain to industry partners or to colleagues that career decision making isn't necessarily linear or logical, or that you give job profile information and they will come. I think that it's way more kind of complex than that. I think having been a careers leader, I truly recognise that is a very big and challenging job, and the pressures that careers leaders are under from all sorts of directions. So I think it really makes me clear that what we're providing for those careers leaders needs to be exactly what they need. We need to be kind of delivering to them so that they can kind of support the young people that they work with. But I think working as a careers writer has really helped me as well, because that's helped me give me a kind of a different perspective, a kind of UK-wide perspective, that experience of understanding the creative process, of working with wider partners, all of that comes in. But I think as to why the career development lens is so important, I mean, I think from my perspective, I think it shows the intent of Interfilm to really speak to their audience of careers professionals by employing somebody from within. So I think it really shows how seriously they take this. Careers professionals are a really big audience. So we need to make sure that you have got everything you need to enable this to happen. But I think the final point I'd make on this probably is that I think that the skills and qualities I developed as a careers professional are really valuable both inside and outside the profession. So, listening, reflective practice, empathy, having a code of ethics, all of those things. I don't think you can underestimate the value of those everywhere in the workplace. It's really a skill set that is needed. But particularly so in the kind of space that we're in.
It's really interesting, and it kind of came out a little bit when we were sort of talking pre-show, when we were kind of reflecting on, I guess, the prominence that the STEM industries have had kind of over time, and then actually how worthwhile having things like Discover Creative Careers Week are, because it's helping to shine that spotlight on a different sector, different industry that maybe doesn't always get the same level of airtime. But actually, you were very quick there when we were talking about that to say, well, yeah, but it's not really just about steering people towards one particular thing, but as you rightly said, helping people explore, raising awareness. So it's, as you said, that critical lens of the career development professional. We're not trying to say any one thing is better than another, but we're trying to give people the tools to be able to decide for themselves, could this be the thing for me?
Absolutely. I think it's the could rather than the should is the key wording there, isn't it? And I think with all of these things, we're not operating in isolation either. So, there are creative industries aren't just creative roles. So STEM skills are really important for the creative industries, in the same way that creative thinking and creative approaches are really important for the STEM agenda as well. So, young people aren't helped by forcing them into boxes and forcing them to, or perhaps those misapprehensions around this is the better route, or you should be doing this. So I think we really need that kind of impartial, reflective process, don't we, in order to have the best impact, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just really heartening to hear, as you said, to have organisations, whether they be kind of charities or private sector organisations or kind of government bodies, just really kind of, again, using that expertise, leveraging that expertise of careers professionals in order to kind of help convey those messages or kind of engage particular audiences. So I think, really, really heartening to hear that. We're moving, Cerys, as always, rapidly towards the end of the show. And I guess if we've had sort of viewers or listeners who've been kind of watching or listening to the podcast today, they may be scrambling around to kind of check out Discover Creative Careers or Interfilm, and they may want to find out a little bit more about kind of both the work that you do and I suppose just generally what's happening with Discover Creative Careers Week. What I suppose would be top tips from you in terms of how to get started and how to, I guess, enhance their knowledge and their awareness around careers in the creative industries.
So I'll try to avoid giving you just a long list of places to go and look, and I guess we can share those with you separately. I think in terms of kind of top tips for getting young people, or clients interested in creative careers, I think our big message is start now. So don't wait for permission. Don't wait. You can be getting yourself involved in creative activities with no real financial outlay, just start having a go. But equally, there are lots of things that young people can do to test out ideas, to learn about industry, to build skills, to build networks, and so on. So there's some great things happening out there with places like National Saturday Club, BFI Film Academy. They could be entering film awards, film games, animation type competitions to get feedback on the work that they're producing. So I think we really try and highlight in our resources now, like what young people can be doing at a young age before they even start to think about pathways. But although we're also trying to highlight what those pathways are a little bit later on as well. So the other thing, just reinforcing the message about, creative careers cutting across, and screen careers particularly, cutting across subjects, skill sets, interests. That idea that you don't need a degree for most of the kind of screen industry jobs is a kind of a message that we want to get across. But we understand also that if we're saying that, we also need to make sure that the alternatives to university are very clearly laid out for young people as well. So that's things that we're working on. What I'll do, maybe rather than kind of listing resources for young people, we can pop those in the like supporting information. But I think in terms of what we're doing at Interfilm, you can come along to our Educator Careers Hub. I think that will be the best thing. That's going to signpost you to all of the stuff that we're doing, whether that's short courses. We've got webinars coming up. We've got a brand new one coming out in December. We've got a whole range of exciting resources. I mentioned Wicked earlier. We've got a great careers resource coming off the back of that in partnership with Universal. Podcasts, broadcasts, you name it, it's all there really. So I'd say keep an eye on our website, keep an eye on our Screen Careers newsletter, and that's going to keep you up to date with all of the exciting developments this week and beyond.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what you're telling me there is that, by the way, folks, if you haven't already signed up to the website and the newsletter, that's probably going to be the first step that you should be taking, or at least following Cerys on her LinkedIn, so that you can make sure that any updates that she and her team are doing and the work that she's involved with, you are here. You're one of the first to hear about it, because more often than not, as careers professionals, we're often time poor. We don't have a lot of time to be scrambling around, looking for things, looking for bits of information, but we want to serve our communities. We want to serve our clients in the best possible way. And this is where organizations, and that's why we bring you these amazing speakers and guests for you, so that you can access the information in a manageable way that gives you what you need, so that you can then disseminate that to your community. So again, I can't reiterate it enough. If you haven't already subscribed, spread the word. The more people that know about We Are Careers podcast show, and the more people it reaches, let's impact as many people as we possibly can. Because my takeaways, and what were your takeaways, viewers, from today's show? Because my takeaways, what Cerys has shared with us is that the creative industry is becoming more open to people from broad range of backgrounds and diversities, and is doing a lot more work at grassroots level to encourage more people from diverse backgrounds to enter the creative sector. And you have organizations like the one that Cerys works with and works at to make sure that that becomes a reality on the ground. And I love the part where Cerys talks about, you don't have to have a degree. You don't have to have gone down a degree route in order for you to access the creative industry, that there are pathways that, folks can choose that bypasses the going to university route, and actually still allows them to have a thriving and successful career in the creative sector. So folks, that's us for today. Share your comments, likes, opinions, whatever you think about today's show and the guests. We love hearing from you. Chris, your final thoughts before we wrap up today's show.
Yes, thanks a bit. So yeah, I mean, I echo really kind of what you've sort of said there in terms of sort of the accessibility of the industry, and as Cerys has mentioned, lots of great partners doing huge amount of work to try and kind of increase that. And again, we've had some of those on the show before, and people like Eric, who I think Cerys has listed in her kind of long list of resources that we'll share on the episode notes after the podcast. But also, I think one thing that's really kind of come through clearly in terms of what you were talking about, Cerys, is that idea of actually trying to kind of get out of those silos of how we see the creative industry. That a creative job is a job in a specific creative industry, and not one that cuts across lots of other industries, when of course in reality it is. And actually it leads very nicely on from what we were talking about in our last podcast with Amit Patel from Experience House. They focus on service design, user experience design, so quite a lot of stuff that cuts across creative and digital, but working with all sorts of clients from private sector, finance, through to public sector, healthcare, all sorts of different projects that need those creative industry skills, but delivered in lots of different ways. So I think that point around the interdisciplinary nature of kind of the creative industries and the skills that people are bringing, and the fact that creative jobs are spanning really across the economy, such an important message to share with everyone out there, both careers professionals and potential job seekers and young people that might be thinking about their own career pathways. So that leads us really nicely on to the end of the podcast. All that's left to say really is a massive thank you, Cerys, for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. And we will be back in a fortnight's time with a very special We Are Careers episode, linking a little bit nicely to the Career Writers Association theme we touched on earlier, as it's going to be very much around authoring and book publication, and we'll say no more for now. So stay tuned for that in a fortnight's time, and until then, wherever you are in the career sphere, have a fantastic 2 weeks, and we'll see you soon.